Why do I refer to the Books of Magra as an ecosystem? That's a spectacular question that I am still learning about. But there are two basic ideas and reasons for referring to the Books of Magra as an ecosystem that I'm aware of at this time. The first one is about how the process of creating it is happening for me. So, as I've said, the Books of Magra is an ecosystem of literature, of music, of images, of architecture. And each one of these areas has its own distinction, has its own character and quality and evolution unto itself. Yet, at the same time, all of these respective areas are informing and influencing one another. They're supporting and nourishing each other. And so, just like you would have a garden, or you would have a forest, or you'd have some other ecosystem, you can say that, well, this thing is this organism, and this plant is this plant, and this tree is that tree. But really, they are part of a whole. They are all integrated and relationally evolving and changing and sustaining one another together. And so all of these elements, whether it's the music, whether it's the literature, whether it's the images or the architecture, all of these things are constantly working in tandem. And that's why when I work on the project, I have to be very mindful of this. Because if I think, okay, today I'm going to definitely work only on music, or I'm definitely going to be drawing some images or working on these concepts, then I invariably get stuck. I get kind of trapped in that um, intention of this is it. And so by referring to it and thinking of it as an ecosystem, I myself have to allow myself, I have to allow myself to stroll through that ecosystem and let it reveal to me what I'm going to do, what needs to be done. So, in the sense of referring to it as an ecosystem in terms of the process of creating, it's not only just about these different elements and how organically interrelated they are, it's also about how I need to be in the same mindset as if I was in a garden, whether I'm in a greenhouse or I'm out among the plants outside and the flowers and the insects, and just seeing what's there, seeing how things are interacting. And as a creative process, what of what I'm experiencing is going to be realized, whether that is writing or music or images or concepts. So that's the first part of why it's referred to as an ecosystem. And the second reason why, which is, I have to admit, um, the more ambiguous one of the two, because it's definitely an area that I am continually learning from, is that the Books of Magra, in terms of its content, whether it's words, whether it's music or sound, whether it's images, whether it's concepts, is about ecosystem. That is a part of what it's about. And this didn't really hit home for me right away. It took a few years of actually working on it and learning about it for myself that I recognized that there's this continuity of relationship, which in a sense, in the simplest terms of ecosystem, I suppose I could have started off by giving a generic definition for ecosystem, but which you could refer to as you have a place where there are relationships between organisms and the elements of that place, whether it's the flora or the fauna, it's the weather, it's the climate, its position, its location. all of these things. And so the idea of ecosystem then, in a much simpler and broader sense, is about relationship. And the Books of Magra, for me, in creating it, as I'm learning about it, is it's about very much about relationship. And I think this is also why, as I was saying before, there's this process of I need to listen to it, and I can't go in creating with this attitude of this has to be done right now, or this needs to be worked on right now. I'm taking time in its ecosystem to understand its relationships. And within that, within the stories, characters and the places that they're in and their relationships with place, how one piece of music to another piece of music relates, how the architectural principles relate to pieces of music, how the images will connect to conceptual ideas. These are all about relationship. And so what this does for me then is that it's a process of, in referring to it as an ecosystem, it's a process, yes, of relationship, but it's also about vitality and life. And I certainly don't feel like creating the Books of Magra is going to give me the monopoly on these things. But what it does do is it continually has me swimming in those waters of what is an ecosystem? What is relationship? What is it for something to support something else, for something to inform something else? And then on top of it all, just as an experience I have all the time with my own time spent in nature, whether it's a forest or it's gardening, is that when I think, the moment that I think that I know what I'll find, I'm shown otherwise. Because I think in the term ecosystem, or in the idea of ecosystem, that has come to the forefront for me with creating the Books of Magra, is that ecosystem is about relationship, but in relationship, with relationship, is surprise. And surprise within surprise. So, at this time, that is my understanding of referring to the Books of Magra as an ecosystem. And I'm sure I'm going to learn more about it as I continue to work on the Books of Magra and share it with others.